You know, nothing says Halloween more than Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster, right?
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive!
They are the trio, the dynamic trio that everyone thinks about. Well, I would think everyone thinks about when it comes to Halloween. The Kings of Spooky. But at the same time, there's another name that coincides with these three legendary monsters, and that is the monster hunter himself,
Van Helsing!
Van Helsing. I wanted to talk about the 2004 Stephen Sommers film because it is something that was overlooked. It's something that is now becoming, I guess, pop culture. In 2004's Van Helsing, we get Hugh Jackman and loads of action, okay? And the conclusion that, for me at least, left me wanting more. This movie was awesome. But let's take it back for a second.
Nobody asked you, bold boy.
First appearing in 1897 in Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Gothic novel, Van Helsing has gone through many different interpretations, but the one that stands out the most is the 2004 Stephen Sommers film Van Helsing, again starring Hugh Jackman as the title character. Now this movie, all of it is just invigorating, from the music to the action. Well, I mean, the plot is, it makes sense, and you go along with it to the point where it's like, okay, cool. However, it was shunned by critics, and I'm just like, what? Now, I cannot act like I didn't watch the heck out of this movie, man. When it first came out, you know, DVD, it was on repeat at my home. Even now, on rewatching it, I was like, how have I not seen this movie recently? I recently watched it again on a flight to Phoenix. And when I tell you that those 2 hours just flew by, they flew by. I enjoyed the heck out of this film.
Dr. Jekyll, you are wanted by the Knights of the Holy Order.
That's Mr. Hyde now.
Again, I don't understand, just because of the CGI, that this movie didn't do the best that it could in order to score itself a franchise, because I believe that we deserve to get a Van Helsing 2. You know, like I covered in my Abbott and Costello video, it's really tough to bring these three together without some kind of great plot. And of course, with Van Helsing, we gotta use Dracula as the villain, right? He's the big baddie. And he's using Frankenstein to do what I guess you would say he wants to become the best daddy of the year. He wants to be the best daddy of the year, and Frankenstein is the key to that goal. And so we find Van Helsing saying, nope, not today, sir. You're going to have to wait on those daddy duties. It just got me thinking and wanting to write about how much this film deserves to be noticed, how much went into creating this film that I don't think the critics took into consideration. I don't think many people took in consideration. Going into the behind the scenes, you can definitely see that they use a lot of CGI, but what they created using the technology at that time should not, again, be overlooked. It's just mind-blowing at how they were able to create Stephen Sommers' vision. And this guy's coming fresh off The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, so he has a few wins under his belt there. So for him to take on three more Universal monsters, I think he accomplished it with this film, with Van Helsing. Nobody asked me, but I think the visual effects add to this story perfectly. Industrial Light and Magic, they just went off on this film. They went off and creating difficult scenes. You know, some people can use the special effects as a crutch. Others use visual effects for the whole darn movie. When you use them to create a scene that normally you couldn't do, you can't knock them for trying, you know? You can't knock them for trying to break the boundaries when it comes to action, when it comes to visual effects. I think they pulled it off extremely well. What Van Helsing managed to do was work seamlessly with the camera, with the actors, and the technology that they had to create extremely vivid action scenes. Some of the tedious work that they pulled off should not be overlooked, I believe. For example, the Wolfman. Did you know they had to create animated skin to show the transformation of the wolf, the man to wolf? So he's literally ripping off his skin to reveal the wolf, and they had to animate the texture for that. And just by looking at the behind the scenes, it probably was a long process. It harkens back to the torturous scene in American werewolf in London, that was all practical. So it's taken it a step up with the visual effects to create another horrible scene in which this man has to go through this metamorphosis to become this wolf. So if it wasn't enough that they were peeling off skin, they brought in real wolves so that way they can get a real certainty of this animal, to really map it out, to bring him to the big screen in this different style. Now, don't get it twisted, okay? There's still a lot of practicals in this movie. The whole Transylvania village was built real scale. The whole Count Dracula castle, it was built full scale. So it gave the actors something to play with. It didn't just give us visual effects, it also gave us a realism to it, so that way we're not just lost in the visual effects. Less jump scares, more action. This thing is stocked with action. That's going to be the whole short. It's just action shots, action shots, action shots. Also, if you stayed this long, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, so that way you can know every single time I drop a gem like these, so that way you can remember these gems that we lost in film history. My favorite action scene is the Transylvania horses. The great bait and switch is perfect, the CGI is flawless, and I love how it ends in that slow-mo turnaround with the werewolf coming over the flames and Van Helsing is prepping his dual pistols. The low box office results and the pushback from reviewers cost this little creative monster the chance to have a franchise, which sucks. It sucks because I would have loved to see this character back in action. I would have loved to see this guy go up against another literary villain or supernatural being. You know, rewatching this film honestly got me wanting to rewatch it again because I couldn't believe what I just saw. Stephen Sommers took what he learned from The Mummy and The Mummy Returns and took it up a notch in this film. Fun with the storytelling, an increase in action and spectacle mixed with visual effects that still, I believe, hold on to, well, I mean, some of them are a little aged. Some of it does look a little aged, but at the same time, I think it still looks dope. I really do. The CGI problem, there is no problem, man. Van Helsing still holds up. It's still action-packed, and it's still a great watch. You know what's been having a problem lately though? Lex Luthor in cinema. Lex Luthor has not been able to be portrayed perfectly in a movie until now. James Gunn's Superman fixes that problem, and we talk about it right here. Go ahead and click.